Hello, this is Aidan Whitley, back with another podcast. I'm podcasting about the poem A Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. The theme of this poem is that overconfidence will always come back to bite you. When the narrator messes up spying on the old man, he was shook. He was not prepared for the mess up because he was too overconfident. Quote, I had my head in and was about to open the lantern when my thumb slipped upon the tin fastening, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, Who's there? Page 2. He was overconfident because he was not prepared for this. When this happened, both him and the man were scared. Him being overconfident almost exposed him. This would not have been good. Because of this, he has to wait for a longer period of time. He states after this, I kept quite still and said nothing. For a whole hour, I did not move a muscle. And in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed, listening. Page 2. He spent a whole hour of his mission standing still, doing nothing, waiting for the man to go back to sleep. In this situation, his overconfidence killed 1 hour of his precious time. Later on in the story, when he was talking to the officers and he put a seat over the mutilated body, he was too overconfident. He was too overconfident because when he thought that he had killed the man, which he did, he thought that he heard the old man's heartbeat. But it was actually his paranoia that made him think about it when he was listening to his own hallucination. His overconfidence and his paranoia made him crack, turning himself in. The narrator of the story could be called a liar, or he could be called someone who exaggerates everything he says. The implication of an unreliable narrator makes us think about the story. What he was saying could not be true, but using the textual evidence from only the source we have, which is his source, we have to guess that what he was saying was somewhat true, or full true. He could be a liar, but like everything else, this is just a guess. Inferences tell us that he is a liar, but an inference is just a fancy word for an educated guess. So what he said could be the truth, or it could be a lie. But for now, all we can do is think that it is the truth, because it's the only thing that we can go off of right now. An object that is important in this story is the lantern that the narrator wears on his head when he is going to spy on the man. What does this lantern symbolize? Why does he wear it on his head? It doesn't exactly tell us in the text, so we have to make inferences and decipher the text. The lantern was on his head, so when he peeked his head into the room, all the man could see was a lantern, if the man was awake. He does this as an extra precaution. When he is wearing the lantern, he shows that he is ready for anything and that he was always prepared. He thinks very highly of himself for doing this, which that leads to overconfidence, and that is the theme, and also what made him crack. The author uses certain repeated words such as stealthy, very stealthy, or it was open. Wide open. To emphasize what is going on in that situation. Some are used to emphasize how highly the narrator thinks of himself. Some are used to support the theme, and some are used to add suspense and color to the situation. When he uses adjectives that are used more to describe highly of someone, he is probably talking about himself because he thinks very highly of himself and is way too overconfident for one human being. But him being overconfident also leads to a disease that he is quoted in paragraph 1. The narrator says that he has a disease that made him heighten his senses in paragraph 1. But he doesn't say what this disease is. From now we can only take guesses from our textual evidence. I think the narrator could have the disease delirium. Delirium is an acutely disturbed state of mind that occurs in fever, intoxication, and other disorders, and is characterized by restlessness, illusions, and incoherence of thought and speech. The author thinks very highly of himself and is restless. We can assume he is restless because he is up all night for 7 days straight, thinking and spying on the evil vulture eye of the old man. We also know that he has illusions when he hears the old man's heartbeat after the old man is dead and mutilated. This is impossible. But he still hears it. How? Because it's an illusion, a hallucination inside of his head. And that makes him crack because of his overconfidence and paranoia. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you learned something about A Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe.